Assalamu alaikum. So, dear first year students, how are you? Hope that you are well. I am also fine by the grace of Allah. So, dear students, you are welcome to this lecture now. This is last lecture for our syllabus and lecture number 10. So, today I will discuss with you the poem, another important poem, Fern Hill. And after this lesson, after this lecture, in the last portion of this lecture, I will deliver you a suggestion for your coming exam. So in the last portion of this lecture, inshallah, you will be given a suggestion you can find here. So listen to this lecture attentively. So dear students, let's start now. So after this lesson, inshallah, the student will be able to understand the poem easily. You can understand the poem Farnhill very easily, inshallah. And then you will be able to make the answer of the following questions also. Number one, the theme of childhood. This is very important question for your coming exam. And another is the use of imagery. What are the images that the poet uses in this poem? So these two questions are very much important for your exam. So inshallah, after this lesson, you will be able to know the answer. So my dear students, let's start now. So the name of the poem is Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas. This is a very much important poem. So here you can find a picture. Fern Hill. Fern Hill is the name of the house, or it's the name of a farm related with the house. It is the poet's aunt's house. So in the Fern Hill, the poet spent much of his time in his childhood period. So in this poem, the poet, in his adulthood, whenever he is very much adult, at that time, from his experience, he writes this poem. So here you can find a picture here. So there is a picture, a boy, a child is sleeping. It is only possible in his dream only. So now let's start now, my dear students. So I would like to deliver some ideas about the poem. So here you can know something about the poem. The students, you can find here that Fern Hill is one of Dylan Thomas' most well-known poems. The poem is constructed of 6 stanzas. In this poem there are 6 stanzas, and each stanza including 9 lines. So Farnhill was a country house. What is Farnhill? If anyone asks you, if there is a brief question that what is Farnhill, then what is the answer? You can give the answer from here. That Farnhill is or was a country house and a farm where Aunt Jones, the poet's aunt, lived. So this is the house or a farm of poet's aunt. So in this poem, the speaker looks back at the innocence of childhood. It is an autobiographical poem, as the subject matter of this poem is taken from the poet's own personal life and from his own experience in his childhood, how he spends his childhood days, childhood periods. This is the main theme of this poem only. And it is an autobiographical poem in which Thomas, Dylan Thomas, uses the memories of childhood days, what he spends in Farnhill, his aunt's house and farm, in order to explore the theme of a journey from innocence to experience. Mainly, he writes this poem. And then, so my dear students, you can find here there are 6 stanzas. We can divide the poem in 2 parts. We can divide the poem in 2 parts. First part contains first 3 stanzas of the poem. In the first 3 stanzas, mainly, the poet describes how he spends his early life, his childhood period, how he enjoys the natural beauty, how he plays with nature, with natural atmosphere in the area of the farm, Fern Hill. So this is narrated in the first three stanza, and then in the last three stanza, stanza 4 to 6, we find that the poet tries to express his experience now in his adulthood. So, in his adulthood, being an adult person, being an aged person, he recollects his past memories and he note down his past memories of childhood in this poem. And finally, he finds that the time is a great healer. Time is a great healer. He lines his time, let me green and dying. That means what is the influence of time? How time compels human being to surrender everything, to surrender to the will of nature. So this is stated in the last three stanza. So my dear students, so as it is a large poem, so here I would like to discuss the poem stanza by stanza, and I would like to discuss the main points, main focus point of the stanza, and what the poet wants to describe in this poem. So I would like to discuss in this way. So in your home, with the lines of the poem, with the stanza, in every stanza, you can, whenever you read, you can take help from here. So at first, I would like to describe about stanza 1. So my dear students, you can find that in stanza 1, Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas was first published in 1946. So in the poem, the speaker fondly remembers his days on the farm. He remembers in his aged time. The last line of the poem says that in his adulthood, in his aged in his aged time, he recollects, he remembers the past memories of childhood. So he fondly remembers his days on the farm, how he spends his time in that farm named Fern Hill. So and he marvels the happy innocence of his childhood, happy innocence time of his childhood he expressed in this poem. So the first line of Fernhill says, the first line of the poem, now as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, now as I was young. He starts narrating in this way under the apple boughs. So the past tense verb I was, he used the word here I was. So I was, he used the word here I was. So the past tense verb was indicates that the speaker is now an adult. So as now he is an adult, he expressed his past events, how he spends his childhood period in Fern Hill. So he wants to express that emotion with us of the time of Fern Hill. So and that is he used the word here was, past tense verb was. So the time was, it is a happy time. The time of Infern Hill is a time of happy time. Every human being passes his childhood with happy, with innocence, with playing with playing with nature. Everyone becomes careless and carefree, and he enjoys his time in his own way. He takes nature as his playmates. So in this way, the poet wants to describe in the first stanza that it was a happy time for him. It is a happy time. And the child is favored around the farm and town. The child is very famous. The child is very introduced with the around atmosphere, with the surround atmosphere of the farm and town. So in this way, he narrates the first stanza, how he expressed his time in the farm hill in his childhood, and what was his connection with natural atmosphere around surrounding atmosphere of the farm hill. So the first stanza is full of pastoral imagery. You can find in the first stanza there are so many images that are taken from pasture, from rural area. That is why it is called pastoral imagery, or pertaining to country life, that is taken from country life, village area. So with the poem mentioning apple boughs, starry skies, trees and leaves, He has a close connection with apple tree, starry skies at night, trees and leaves. He has a close connection with them, and other natural objects also. So in this way, in the first line, he starts the first stanza in this way. Now, as I was young and easy under the apple boughs. So in this way, in the first stanza, we find he gives a setting of the poem, and the poem is set in a rural area, in a village area. He takes so many pastoral images, he uses pastoral imagery in this poem to explain how he spent his time in his childhood period at Farn Hill, a house or a farm of his aunt. So my dear students, I hope that you can understand stanza 1. And then stanza 2 and 3. In stanza 2 and 3, we can find that here you can find in stanza 2, the child is described as green and carefree. As green, the word green and carefree uses how he used his time in his childhood. The phrase declares. So with green having the dual meaning of both young and naive, the word green indicates he was very much young and naive. So the child is naive about something, he is very much curious about something. And line 30 provides the first hint the child does not yet understand time. The children never understand what is time, what is the influence of time. They never thinks or imagines about time. So in this way, in these lines, in this stanza, in the second stanza, he tries to express that in his childhood, normally the children never thinks about time, never imagines about time. So in the world, he also, the child also, does not yet understand about time. So time is mentioned for the first time in this line, in the line number 30. For the first time is used here. And as the poem develops in the succeeding stanzas, as the thought of the poem develops, gradually develops, he gives the idea about time. So the significance of time becomes clear with the development of the thoughts. The significance also becomes clear. The significance of the time also becomes clear. So second stanza ends with the child wasting time. The children never understand the influence of time, and that is why the poet thinks that the child wasting time. That means the child spend all the times by playing and playing. So how the children spends their time? This is all by not consciencing, but never concerning about the time. So skipping stones in a stream on a Sunday afternoon. So in this way he narrates. So then we find in stanza 3, here in stanza 3 opens with the additional description of the child's pleasure on the farm. Already I have stated that we can divide the poem into two parts. Part 1, describe how the poet, how Dylan Thomas spends his childhood period with the natural atmosphere by playing in the Fern Hill in his auntie's farm. So stanza 3 opens with the additional description of the child's pleasure on the farm, how he takes pleasure from nature by playing with nature. So line 21, you can find line 21 describes this time, the time as playing lovely. In this way he describes the time. Now he spends his time with playing with lovely atmosphere with the nature. So beginning in line 23, we can find the child hears the seas, he can hear the sea, sound of seas, the farm in his dreams. Here we find the dreamy world of the children. We find the dreamy world of the children. He gives here a description. So the child dreams of owls, nightjars, and horses on the farm. So here you can find a picture that it is only possible in dream So the poet in his dream, he enjoys horses, sea sounds, everything that is possible in the dreams. So you can find in the line 3, the child hears the seas, the farm in his dreams, and he also see the farm in his dreams, in his dreamy atmosphere. So he dreams of owls, nightjares, and horses on the farm. So then, in stanza 4 and 5, in stanza 4 and 5, we can find that in the fourth stanza, here you can find the child awakens to the rooster. So the poem contains many images of an idyllic childhood in the previous stanzas. So, but in stanza 4, the poet explicitly alludes to the biblical Eden. You know, here the poet gives a religious touch. Here he tries to express biblical Eden. He compares. So, in Bible there is a reference of Eden. Eden is a place in heaven where Adam and Eve spend their time happily with happy moment. So in the stanza 4, the poet gives the description about biblical Eden, makes a similarities here. So line 30 depicts the farm as Adam and maiden. So lines 33 through 37, third line number 33 to 37, refer to the creation story in the biblical Genesis. Book of Genesis, there is book of Genesis. So biblical Genesis. And line 33 and 34 compare morning on the farm to the first light in Eden. That means here he tries to show a heavenly pleasure, a heavenly atmosphere in his Farm Hill. He compares here Farm Hill with the Eden Garden in heaven, biblical Eden. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light. So in the first spinning place, so the child speaks again in stanza 5. So in stanza 4, he compares the Fern Hill with the Eden Garden. It's taken from biblical reference here. So in the first in stanza 5, saying that with all his activities, my sky, blue trades, in line 42, he does not understand or care that this childhood paradise will end. My dear students, here, the child never thinks this. His childhood, his paradise like childhood, will end in a certain period, after a certain period. The children never thinks about this. So this is mentioned in the stanza 5 and 4. So now the last stanza. So the last stanza. In the last stanza, the poet use imagery. So the stanza 6 you can find here. The imagery that appears in stanza 6 is a bit darker than that in the earlier stanzas. The swallow in line 47, for an example, is an evening bird. So the child at last becoming an adult and leaving behind the innocence of the past acknowledges that night death is always coming. So in line 48, he contemplates the moon that is always rising. So the poem ends with the child's realization that in the final stanza is very much important for this idea. My dear students, final stanza is very much important for this idea because the poem ends with the child's realization that death comes for everyone and that even the child is young yet dying. Though he is young yet dying, the childhood period is young now but it is dying. The final lines 53 and 54 indicate that the child has been able to live a carefree life only because of his naivety and ignorance. Once he understands the nature of time, he leaves his innocence behind and becomes an adult person. So in this way, here we can find the journey of from innocence to experience. So the poet here shows a journey actual innocence to experience how human beings become uh, adult. So my dear students, here you can find the answer of the question theme of childhood. So at first I stated that the two questions are very much important. One is theme of childhood. That means how does Dylan Thomas treat us or narrated or express his childhood in the poem Fernhill? This may be the question. Or illustrate the idea of theme of childhood through the light of the poem Fernhill. So in this way, from these slides, you can take help to prepare the answer. So my dear students, the question is very much important for you. Theme of childhood in the poem Fernhill. So from these you can take help to prepare your answer, my dear students. Listen to me attentively. So here he says, in this way you can start the answer in this way, that in Farnhill there is a mature adult narrator who remembers the calmness and delight of childhood and its close and intimate relationship with the natural world. So when he was a child, he felt excellently happy and was carefree and innocent. But as he gradually grew up to adulthood, he realized the mortality of childhood, so its blessing and even adulthood. Indeed, Dylan Thomas Farnhill is best seen as a portrait of relationship of youth, time, and death. So in this way, you can give the introduction, and then you can say, in a child's eye, in a child's eye, the world seems to be beautiful, wonderful, and fresh. On the contrary, an adult sees the same world drab, monotonous, unsatisfactory, and disappointing. So he regretfully looks back at past and his blissful childhood and waits disappointedly for his fate, which is doomed to mortality and death. So then you can find here the remaining answer. Actually, in this poem, Dylan Thomas intentionally used contradictory words and portrays opposing imageries in it. For example, in Fernhill, there are different opposite images like being a young, happy, carefree prince versus being dying in chains. This is totally opposite. So there are also opposite words such as light and dark, opposite. Young and old, light and dark, opposite words. Shadow and shining, opposite words. So in this way, there are opposite concepts as well. For instance, ignorance and maturity, childhood and adulthood. This is stated in the poem. So now we can say, besides what mentioned here, there are the contrast between the adult and the child perceptions of the world, which is made clear in their frequent references to time throughout the poem. So in line 1, the adult speaker of the poem remembers his childhood and the time when he was happy, oblivious, young and easy. He was careless about time and enjoyed watching the beautiful scenery, while time with his eyes constantly controlled the child and had him under his own watchful gaze. So the blithe, happy child identified with the nature and even considered himself as the princess of the apple towns, apple boughs. So in this way, you can take help from here to prepare your answer. So you can find here the speaker as a child was so carefree, careful, and cheerful, and impressed in his imaginative world that he was not aware of time and temporariness of his blissed childhood. Actually, it was time which let the child do what he wishes freely. You can find here. So, my dear students, here you can find actually the ignorant boy said innocently, I ran my heedless ways because he was not still aware of the power of time, which was present in every single moment of his life, and wanted to steal away his joy, carefreeness, innocence, and youth. So, in his lordly and carefree joy, the boy believed that all things are made for him alone. But in reality, time is only tolerating this freedom. So the real lord of things is time itself, and at last, time will be the cause of his losing the farm and all his happiness from his life. So in this way, you can take help from the slides to prepare your answer. You can prepare your answer. The innocent child who was ignorant of time and its power felt delightful and carefree and imagined that such kind of happiness also exists in his surroundings too. So, for example, the farm, the happy yard, the gay house represent the way the innocent, happy child sees his environment and the way he celebrates his oneness with nature. So, but time is still in power and has the authority and allows the child to have fun, while the child does not know that all this joyful, innocent, and blissful childhood will not last forever. So, then you can find that we find gradually the speaker's attitude and tone changes from ecstasy to happiness, from ecstasy and happiness to sadness and lamentation. So as the child grew up, time took childhood's blessing from him and led him out of his imaginary, peaceful, and elegant Eden. So, in the last stanza, the poet once again contemplates on the memories of his childhood, but this time, the awareness becomes dominant. In the last line, the poet refers to his changed situation in the world of experience. So now he is in chain, green, green color is withered now, green color is withered now. So this poem is the journey from childhood to manhood. You know, this is the theme, main theme. This is also very much important. So, my dear students, in this way, you can take help. You can take help to prepare the answer. And at first, you can give some introductory sentence that Dylan Thomas is very much important. Dylan Thomas is a modern poet. So, in his poems, we find the idea of childhood. Very nicely, he presents in the poem, in the poem Farnhill, the time how he spent in his childhood period. So he draws the picture of a child of childhood period in this poem very nicely, and how this child becomes gradually an adult person. This is also narrated in the last portion of the poem. In the poem. So now I would like to discuss the poem. I would like to discuss the theme of childhood through the light of this poem. So in this way, my dear students, in this way, we can give an introduction. You can give an introductory sentence, and then so take help from the slides to prepare the answer. To prepare the answer, you can take the help also from the slides. Take the helps to prepare the answer. So and then and And now I'd like to discuss with you a suggestion. So here is a suggestion for you. It is suggestion for 2020. I hope that your exam will be held on December, within December. So take preparation in your home. So my dear students, here is a selection for you for your coming exam. So these are most important question. Those are very much important for your coming exam. So here I give the suggestion of broad question and short questions. Broad questions are included in part C. In part C, you have to answer. You have to make answer at least 5 questions, and every question contain 10 marks. So 5 into 10 equal to 50 marks here. So for the 50 marks for the part C, here is a suggestion for you. Very much important questions. Here is a selection. So my dear student, the first question is that comment on Emily Dickinson's treatment of death. So Emily Dickinson's famous poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death. So from that poem, the main theme is death. So based on the main theme, this is the question. So comment on Emily Dickinson's treatment of death, how he treats death in his poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death. This is important question. And number 2, how does Shakespeare immortalize the beauty of his parent in Sonnet 18? This is also very much important for broad questions. How does Shakespeare immortalize the beauty of his friend in Sonnet 18? A very much important question for you, for your coming exam. So then another question, comment on poet of joy and solitude. Comment on Wordsworth as a poet of joy and solitude. So evaluate Wordsworth as a poet of, here there is a correction, comment on Wordsworth comment on Wordsworth as a poet of joy and solitude. Or this is very much important question from I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, from the poem I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. So then another important question, that means this question may be evaluate William Wordsworth as a poet of joy and solitude. This question may be evaluate William Wordsworth as a poet of joy and solitude. This is important question from this poem. And then what is dramatic monologue? Evaluate Ulysses as a dramatic monologue. I have delivered this in my lecture, maybe lecture 4. So this is very much important question for you. Number 4, what is dramatic monologue? Evaluate Ulysses as a dramatic monologue. My dear students, number 2, very important question. Number 2, number 4, and the number 1, very much important for you, for your coming exam. So here the question, what is dramatic monologue? Evaluate Ulysses as a dramatic monologue. And then here are some questions. Number 5, comment on the intensity of passion expressed in How Do I Love Thee? So How Do I Love Thee is a famous poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So from this poem, this question is very much important. Comment on the intensity of passion. Intensity of passion, how the poet expressed here. And then evaluate Pike as a poem of human violence and horror, maybe. Evaluate Pike as a poem of human violence. There is another question from here, animal imagery, and I didn't mention it here. This is very much important. So then, number 7, how does Robert Herrick compare human life with that of daffodils? The poem name Two Daffodils. From this poem, this is very much important question. So how does Robert Herrick compare human life with that of daffodils? So then another question, evaluate Milton's On His Blindness as a sonnet. So evaluate this poem as a sonnet, Milton's On His Blindness as a sonnet. So This question may be in this way: what is sonnet? Evaluate on his blindness as a sonnet. In this way, this is very much important also. So discuss the theme of childhood in Dylan Thomas poem Fernhill. This is also very much important. Discuss the theme of childhood in Dylan Thomas's poem Fernhill. This is very much important. So then the last question, write a note on Yeats' desire from his daughter. Write a note on Yeats' desire from his daughter. What Yeats desires, what Yeats expects from his daughter, what good qualities, what virtues Yeats desire from his daughter. This is the main question. This is the question. So in this way, there are 10 questions I included here. Very important 10 question. So you can take preparation based on these types of questions. It will be very helpful for your exam. And the most important questions are 10, number 10, 9, 7, 8, and 4, 2, and 1. These are very much important for you. So here is given the suggestion for you. Here you can find suggestion 2003 to 2020. It is for part C, broad questions. Here is here is 4 question. Another slide, here is 6 question. So total there are 10 questions here. So you can take helps, you can take preparation based on this question. Inshallah, you will be successful to hope to complete your hope you desire for coming in the coming exam. So then, my dear students, here are some selections, here are some questions for you from part B. You know, part B contains short answers, short questions. So this short question answer may be at least 3 pages or 4 pages. You will try to make the answer of short questions at least 3 pages or 4 pages. So if you practice right, then it will be helpful for you. So these questions are very much helpful, will be very much helpful for you for coming exam. So then in part B, we will find some short questions. There are some short questions here. Who, according to Milton, serve God best? You know, it is a question from Milton's on his blindness. According to Milton, who serve God best? This is the question. Another is, what are the characteristics of metaphysical poetry? This is the short question. Short question. What are the characteristics of metaphysical poetry? And then write a note on romanticism. Another question. And then describe how Telemachus is different from his father. How Telemachus is different from his father Ulysses. This is the main question here. So another is, how does E.B. Browning expresses her love? How does Elizabeth Barrett Browning expresses her love? So another question, what is mysticism? This is very much important. What is mysticism? So here you can find, and there are another slide. So in this slide you can find also, this is also for part B. For part B, these are the selections of short questions. So dear students, you can find here, describe Pike as an animal poem for your short answer, Then what is Rabindranath's central concept of an ideal country? This is also another important question. What prayer does Shelley make to the West Wind? This is also another question, important question. So what are the sensuous elements found in the poem Ode to Autumn? Short question. You will prepare the answer for short answer, short question. So what reasons do you guess are responsible for the fall of the Patriot? This is the question from Robert Browning's poem, The Patriot. It is also very much important. So my dear students, these questions are very much important for you for part B. Here you can find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here you can find 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 questions here. So these are the short questions. These are the short questions for your exam, suggestions for your exam. And these are the broad questions from part C for your exam. This is the final suggestion from my part for your coming exam. So prepare yourself based on this question. Inshallah, we will be helpful in your coming exam. It will be helpful, very much helpful for your coming exam. So you know, my dear students, I use these types of sources. So if you take help from Google, will be very helpful. And for preparing answers for your questions, you can take help from your book Introduction to Poetry Volume 1 and Volume 2. You read all the questions, all the answer of the question from this book, and then you try to write in your own way. You prepare a sheet in yourself, you try, and then you go to the teacher of your college and you can give the prepared answer by you to your teacher to make a corrections, to make a proof of your answer of your sheet. So in this way you can try to prepare an answer in yourself, in your language. So if you try, you can, inshallah. So dear students, I try my best to deliver lecture on the course of Introduction to Poetry for first year. So I hope that you will be benefited from these lectures. So for the last time, I'd like to show the suggestions here at the slides. You can take help from here. These are the questions, and here are the questions, short questions, and this is the last slide for short question. So my dear students, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your betterment. I hope that you will do better in your exam and also in your life. If you read poetry from your heart, you will enjoy poetry. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.